This is the Year 8 Numeracy Procedural Sample Materials. Question 1. Something add 12.6 equals 20. Now the first thing I would do is I would ask myself, what would I add on to 12.6 to get to 13? Well, the answer is I would add on 0.4. So I'm at 13 now. What would I need to add on to get up to 20? I would need to add on another 7, giving me 7.4. Now the second part, I would use a similar technique. So I would add on to 526 until I get to 2000. So what would I add on to 526 in order to get to 530? Well, that would be 4. So if I'm at 530, what would I add on until I get to 600? Well, that would be 70. So I'm at 600. What would I need to add on to get to 2000? Well, that would be 1,400. And that gives me the answer 1,474. Question 2. This is a BIDMAS question. Now, what we have to do in BIDMAS is we have to follow the order of operations, which is brackets first, then indices, and finally division, multiplication, addition, and subtraction. So in this problem we have a bracket, so I would work out the bracket first. So I would leave the 18 alone, I would work out the contents of the bracket, 7 add 3 as being 10, and then I have to decide which is more important, which gets done first, a subtraction or a division. Now in the word BIDMAS, D, division, comes before the S for subtraction, so I would do the division part next. So 10 shared by 2 is 5, so I would then work out what 18 minus 5 is, and the answer is 13. Question 3. Cherries cost £1.25 per 100 grams. So the question I've been asked is, how much would I pay for 3 kilograms? Now what I would do here is I would first of all take that 100 grams and I would turn that 100 grams into a kilogram. So if I multiply everything in the initial statement by 10, what I would produce then is I would say 1,000 grams is going to be worth £12.50. But the question I've been asked is, what is 3 kilograms going to cost me? Well, that would be a case of multiplying that last answer by 3, which would give me 3,000 grams is going to be £37.50. Question 4. Increase 90 by 10%. Well, to work out 10% of anything, you divide by 10. So if I divide 90 by 10, the answer would be 10% is going to be 9. But I've got to increase 90 by that 10%, so I would add it on to my original 90, giving me 99 as the answer. The pie chart shows the favourite sports of children. And underneath the pie chart it says 10 children voted for netball. And the question is then, how many people voted for rugby? Well, one thing that jumped out at me is I noticed that the angle for netball and rugby together made 180 degrees, or half of the pie chart. So what I noticed is that the angle for rugby needed to be 120 degrees for the two of them to add up to 180. Now the next thing I then noticed is that rugby was a part of the pie chart that was twice the size of that for netball. So therefore, if it was twice the size, it must have had twice as many children, making 20 children. The next question is, how many people voted altogether? Well, between netball and rugby, which was half of the pie chart, there were 10 children and 20 children, which gave a grand total of 30 children for that half of the pie chart, which means that all together there must have been twice that many, making 60 children. Question 6. What is 12 times 0.3? Well, in order to do this, we do multiply 12 threes, which are 36, and then I noticed that my original number in the question, 0.3, had one decimal place, so my answer also has to have one decimal place, so that decimal point needs to go between the 3 and the 6, making the answer 3.6. Now the second question, 4.5 divided by 9, I can apply a similar technique here. If I do 45 divided by 9, which gives me an answer of 5, but then I take into account that my answer needs to also have one decimal place, that means the decimal point would have to go in front of the 5, giving me an answer of 0.5. The deal offered here for packets of biscuits is you can get 3 packets for the price of 2 packets. They also tell me that one packet costs £1.15. Now the question I've been asked is how much would I pay for 9 packets? Well, 9 is 3 lots of 3 packs. But of course, because I'm getting 3 packs for the price of 2, then I'm not going to be buying 3 lots of 3. I'm actually going to be buying 3 lots of 2, which is really 6 packs instead of the 9 that I'm going to be paying for. So if I do 6 lots of £1.15, then what I will get is, I will get 6 lots of 15p give me 90p, and 6 lots of £1 give me 6. So the answer is I would pay £6.90. Question 8. Work out 264 times 34. So I'm going to solve this using a two-way table and do multiplication that way. So along the top of my table I've split my 264 up into 200, 60 and 4, and down the side of the table I have split up my 34 into 30 and 4. So what I will do now is fill in each of these 6 multiplication answers and then add up the 6 of them to give me my grand total. So top left part of the grid, I want to do 300 times 200. Well, to do this I would do 3 times 2, which is 6. But then between the 30 and the 200 I've got 3 zeros altogether, so I will put my 3 zeros. Top middle, it's 60 times 30, so I would do 6 threes, which are 18. And then between the 60 and the 30 I've got 2 zeros, so I add those 2 zeros. And top right, 4 times 30, well I do 4 threes, which are 12, and the 1 zero from the 30. Bottom row, 4 times 200, well that would be 4 twos are 8, and then 2 zeros. Bottom middle, 4 times 60 is 6 fours, which are 24, and you add a 0. And finally, bottom right is 4 fours, which are 16. So adding each of these rows gives me the answers to the right of the table, and then I would add up those 2 answers to give me the grand total, which I put in the answer space. Write 1/8 as a decimal. Now there are a few ways to do this. Some people remember that an eighth is half of a quarter, so they know that a quarter is 0.25, so then you half that. Or if you forget that method, what you can do is simply do 1 divided by 8. And in order to do this, we would do the conventional division. So how many 8s go into 1? Well, 0, carry the 1. How many 8s go into 10? 1, 1 8 is 8, carry 2. How many 8s go into 20? 2 8s are 16, we'll carry the 4. And how many 8s are in 40? 5, giving me 0.125. Now the second part is write 35% as a fraction. So one of the first things we're taught when we're turning percentages to fractions is percent means out of 100, so 35% would be 35 out of 100. Question 10. Work out the volume of the cube. Well, the volume formula for a cube and cuboid is length times width times height. So if we take those measurements, it will be 3 by 3 by 3. And 3 times 3 is 9. 9 times the final 3 is 27. And don't forget the units, because the units will give us that extra mark, and it is centimetres cubed for volume. Round 256.34505 to 2 decimal places. So rounding to 2 decimal places means our answer must have 2 digits after the decimal point. So you can think of this as being cut off as shown. Now, my answer might stay as 0.34, or it may go up to become 0.35. The digit that's going to tell me whether this happens or not is the digit immediately after the cut-off point. Anything 5 or more means we are going to round up. So in this case, I am in fact going to round up, and my answer will be 256.35, because I round up that last digit. Question 12. Work out 3/4 minus 1/3. Now, we can only add or subtract fractions that have the same denominator or bottom number. So in order to do this, a quick and easy way is to multiply each fraction by the number that is on the denominator of the other fraction. Or in other words, multiply the first fraction by 3 and the second fraction by 4. Now you must remember to multiply top and bottom to make equivalent fractions. So tripling both parts of the 3/4, 3 3s gives me 9 and 3 4s gives me 12. So that's what 3/4 becomes. Now multiplying the third by 4, the top 4 times 1 becomes 4, and the bottom 4 times 3 becomes 12, And then when we work the answer out, remember, do not add or subtract the denominator, only the numerator. So 9 minus 4 is 5/12, and that is the answer. So what we have here is two people, Sita and Reese, and they are sharing profit from a car boot sale in the ratio 5:2. So Sita gets 5 shares, Reese gets 2 shares. Now what they're telling us here is that Sita is going to get £30. So that is the 5 parts of this share. So how on earth now do we turn a 5 into a 30? Well, when we're dealing with ratios, we're usually either multiplying or dividing. So 5 to 30 could become bigger, so I have multiplied by something, and I've multiplied by 6. Now to keep the amount of money they're sharing in that ratio 5:2, I also have to multiply Reese's share by 6. So if I take 2 from the ratio, multiply it by 6, that tells me that Reese is going to receive £12.